Welcome to today's episode of Keep Blooming. I'm your host, Liz Montigny. Today, I give you a quick 5-step monthly review process. So grab a pen and your journal. You're going to want to jot this down. And I give you access to a quick little flash sale on my goals ebook. So if you want to save $10 on that, check the show notes. And I've got some upcoming preview of some guests that will be on the podcast in the coming weeks. So let's get growing and keep blooming. Do you want simple steps to level up your mind, body, and spirit, or encouragement as you navigate the challenges of motherhood? Or maybe you need a dose of hope to achieve that goal? Then you've tuned in to the right podcast. This is Keep Blooming, and I'm your host, Liz Montigny. Each week, I'll encourage you to drop the hustle mentality for hope and act on the dreams God has put on your heart. I'm a licensed Ziegler life coach. I've created a theater ministry, and like you, I'm doing all the things as a Catholic, a wife, and a mom to 3 boys. So let's get growing and keep blooming. Hello there. Welcome to today's episode of Keep Blooming. I'm your host, Liz Montigny. Wow, we are in a brand new baby month. Hello, March. Before I dive into today's topic, which is all about monthly planning, I want to get us in the right mindset with some Lectio Divina. If you've been listening, you know I like to root our conversations in truth. So this is from Philippians chapter 4, verses 4 through 7. Rejoice in the Lord always. I shall say it again, rejoice. Your kindness should be known to all. The Lord is near. Have no anxiety at all, but in everything, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, make your requests known to God. Then the peace of God that surpasses all understanding will guard your hearts and minds in Christ Jesus. This is a favorite of mine. It's, of course, right before that very famous verse of, finally, brothers, whatever is true, whatever is just, right? But it's just, this passage is just filled with joy and peace. And just, I was reminded last week that, even though I may not always hear or see Jesus, he's always near and he's always there, right? And sometimes it gets hard when you forget his presence. So I was reminded of that last week and been thinking about that for a while. But I love this also with regards to today's topic because, it says, in everything by prayer and petition with thanksgiving, make your requests known to God. And I don't care which coach you talk to, they're always going to talk about a gratitude practice. And then I also love to focus on this idea of self-reflection and just slowing down. And I think that's part of this passage as well, is just guard your hearts and minds. And how do we do that? We do that by taking some time to spend with the Lord and see what he has to say to us instead of us always talking all the time. It's a lesson I'm constantly learning. But yes, here we are. It's March 1st. Wow. We are in the 3rd month of this new year. Can we call it a new year anymore? I don't know. But anyway, so I've been using this planner lately called the Saint Maker. It's I really like it a lot. And they have something included in it that has a weekly review and a monthly review. And it's really stuff that I use in my coaching practice, just, kind of different words. So I was just really excited about it, to have it all in one place and on the page in front of me. And I wanted to share the monthly planning section with you because I think this is a great time to do this. Like, here we are, March 1st. So maybe just take some time, either, in the next few days or over the weekend, before you get too far into the month to do this. Now, just disclaimer, I do not have any sort of connection with the Saint Maker. I'm not offering you a code or anything like that. This is just, um, you know, starting a new month and getting some self-reflection and planning in that I thought you would uh, appreciate and benefit from it. So first off, what are you going to do? What do I always say? Take some time and reflect. How did February go? Right? Um, were there some major events? Did you notice some themes going on? What were just some of the activities, like the big notable things that happened in the past month? Good or bad, okay? And just take some time. Focus on the good. Try to focus on the good. We'll get to the challenges in a little bit, but take some time to do that. So reflect on February, okay? And see where you're coming up there. I always do tend to notice themes. And I think that's very important because I think that is where God may be asking you to take a closer look. So, if you're discerning something, or maybe you feel like you're struggling with something, see if there's been a common theme going on for yourself, in the last few months or weeks or whatever it may be. Okay. So that's number one. Take a look at February. Number two, blessings. Reflect on the blessings God has given and the challenges of this month. Now, wait a minute. You might be saying, Liz, why am I going to, think about challenges? Well, you have to think about the challenges and you have to be grateful for the challenges. Honestly, they are a blessing because it's in those challenges that we grow. That's where we, grow the most because it's in those challenges where we learn, and maybe even have to ask for help, which is, I'm telling you, so hard for me. Okay. So that's number two. Think about the blessings that you have been given and think about those challenges. Okay. And I really encourage you, don't just think about it, write it down. Like sit down with your journal and a pen, a cup of coffee, whatever your favorite beverage is, and just sit down and do this. Take some time. I'm not saying you have to sit there and write a novel. A lot of times, it's bullet points for me, whatever it is, but write it down. It really helps your brain process everything. And once you have it all down on the paper, you can really look back and see patterns. And I think that's also very helpful, especially if you feel like you're in a rut. But another great reason for writing all these things down is so you can track your progress. I talk a lot about this in my goals course, on my retreats, and with my private coaching clients. You got to keep track because sometimes you're farther along than you think you are, or maybe you missed something, you missed a step, who knows, but write it down. That makes a huge difference. And it's actually, there's a stat out there that you are 42% more likely to reach your goal when you write it down. So guess what? You're practically halfway there. So just write it down. The next section that they have, so this is number 3. Yeah. Sins and shortcomings. Describe patterns of sin and shortcomings this past season. Yeah, we're not going to ruminate here, but let's be honest, right? I know for me, sometimes, a lot of the time, I find myself confessing the same sins, over and over again. So I have to really look at that, right? So it's okay. It happens to us all, but let's just identify it and put it out there, right? And it's easier to handle. All right, number 4, lessons learned. There should be a lot. There's often a lot, even if they're small. Write it down, lessons learned, because this will just help you move forward and not live in the past so much, and also just not beat yourself up so much. Remember, failure is an event, not a person. Okay. And just because you learned a lesson, It doesn't make you, a failure. It just doesn't. And it's called life. It's called progress. It's called growth. All right. So, in fact, if you are not failing, you're not growing. And I'd be really surprised if you're not failing at something right now. So, it's okay. What is the lesson you can learn from it? All right. And the fifth one, the last little section, discernment. What is God calling you to in the next month? So when you start thinking about the month ahead. So we put February aside and now we're thinking about March. What are you being called to do? And this is a great time to go back and review any goals Gosh, I hope you set some goals for the new year. Go back, take a look. Hey, are you on track? Is there something that you need to realign? Is something like no longer even resonating? Go back and take a look at that and just take a little reassessment and, take a moment and look at those challenges and blessings and see if there is a pattern there and if God is calling you to look at something in particular. I love taking a look at those themes. So yeah, I love this little, monthly review. Like I said, this is included in my planner, but you can just jot this down for yourself. It's very similar to what I encourage my clients to use. So I thought given the first of the month, it would be a good time to review. So guess what? I have some exciting stuff coming up for all of you listening. I have a couple of guests coming up. Next week, you are going to hear from a fabulous person who is going to be talking with me all about the workplace and how does that work and, what are we being called to do there. And then a little bit later in the month, I'm going to be taking a look at finances and money mindset and all that stuff, which we really haven't covered on this podcast yet. And I think it's super important, especially when we're talking about converting dreams to goals. And I'll have another guest on talking about taking better care of our body, mind, and soul. So a lot of great guests for you coming up on this podcast. So I hope you keep tuning in live every Wednesday. All right, be sure to check the show notes for the Lectio Divina passage, as well as I have a quick little offer for you on my goals ebook, which you can download at a discount just for this week only. It's like a little flash sale. So if you want that, and if you need a little help in this goals area, you may want that right now for $10 off. Not bad, right? All right, let's go back to our Lectio Divina, which is Philippians chapter 4:4-7. Rejoice in the Lord always. I shall say it again, rejoice. Your kindness should be known to all. The Lord is near. Have no anxiety at all, but in everything by prayer and petition with thanksgiving, make your requests known to God. Then the peace of God that surpasses all understanding will guard your hearts and minds in Christ Jesus. So I think taking that time to do a monthly review of looking back at February and thinking ahead to March, I think that's kind of all encapsulated in those last two verses, right? Have no anxiety at all, but in everything by prayer and petition with thanksgiving, make your requests known to God. Do this with God, friends. Do this with God. Work with God. Okay, don't work with the world. It's a hot mess out there. Work with God. All right. All right, my friends. Get growing and keep blooming. Thank you for joining me for this episode of Keep Blooming. Tune in every Wednesday for a dose of hope and encouragement. You can find this podcast on Anchor, Spotify, and Google and Apple Podcasts. To be the first to know about my upcoming retreats and latest offerings, be sure to hop onto my email list. Have a wonderful week and remember to keep blooming.